There was a life where it was very difficult for the family that I was born into to feed all of us. And we would say it was around, the year was around 1700s or so. And we were hoping, there was many of us, we had 10 brothers and sisters and 2 parents that were just trying to put some food on the table. It was rather rustic, rather desolate. There were no towns. There were no abilities to go to a fast food restaurant and get some hamburgers. And none of that existed. So we were lucky. We were foraging in the forest practically for food. And a traveling peddler came through. And none of us had shoes. We were always barefoot for our whole lives. Even in the cold winter, we would wrap our feet in rags if we got cold. Peddler came through, and for some reason he had some shoes with him that he wanted. There was a lamb that my father was saving for slaughter, later on to feed us, and the peddler wanted the lamb. And we can remember clearly standing there going, well, Dad, Father, that's our food. And my father at the time said, well, what will you give me for the lamb? And winter was coming. Everyone was cold. He said, well, I'll give each of your children a pair of shoes. Drona said, shoes? Oh, shoes? I mean, we were completely caught off guard by that. And he says, look, I have some that have not sold. I'm carrying them around. They have not sold. They're not in really great condition. But I'll give you shoes for your children if you give me the lamb. Now, our father lamented over this for quite a bit of time. And he finally realized that he could probably go out and hunt like a wild boar or a deer or something to feed us. And the concept of his children having shoes delighted him on a lot of levels, because for him internally, it was a feeling of success that all his children would have shoes. So he agreed. He gave the lamb to the peddler, and the peddler gave us each pair of shoes. Now, we didn't quite know what to do with them. We can remember this clearly. But I was given a pair. They were a little bit too big. And one shoe was a little bit bigger than the other. So it felt a little awkward. But as soon as I can remember so clearly sliding that piece of leather onto my foot, and then there were laces, I had to tie it up, and I didn't know how to make a bow or tie a knot. I didn't know how to do that. So our father had to show us how to do that. And I can remember feeling so rich, so happy. So I couldn't wait to tell my friends that I had shoes. And the best part of it was, as the older siblings would outgrow the shoes, they would be passed down to us. So I literally had shoes in that life for a very long time afterward. Now, they weren't the prettiest things, but walking without shoes and walking with shoes is 2 different things. And you were asking about abundance, about it being poor or being rich. And just by having a pair of shoes, now they weren't pretty, but they felt good. And I felt like a princess wearing them. And yes, I knew about princesses because I had read about them. But the timing of it couldn't have been better, as I was about 10 at the time. It gave me a sense of worth that I was just as good as anyone else. And our Father couldn't have done a better thing for us, because he took us from feeling destitute. He took us from, he always managed to get food on the table, as meager as it was, but he took us to the point where we weren't barefoot. And trust us, that's a big deal when you're living practically in the forest and have to walk on ground that's rocky or has briar patches in it. I mean, it was a big deal to have a pair of shoes. And I considered that life one of the most poignant ones I've ever had. That the individuality of it and the movement, as small as it appears from the outside, but how huge it was inside of me to go from not having shoes to having shoes, tremendous. And we would say that that was probably one of the most poignant lives, because I realized that the definition of rich is varied. I felt rich after having that pair of shoes. Now, I didn't have money. We were still scrounging for food. We were still foraging in the forest for berries and things to eat. But I had shoes. And it changed the whole course of that linear life. Now, of course, there were lives where things were much better, where I incarnated into a family where money wasn't an issue, but perhaps unconditional love was. We didn't have that. But we had money, but somehow money just didn't, give you that warm, fuzzy feeling in that particular life. We think that the life where we were very poor and had no shoes was probably a little bit more expanding of our consciousness than the one where we had a lot of stuff but didn't have the love we needed or didn't have the attention we needed. So there's the difference. And we always equate that one life. It sticks out. We've had thousands of lives. That life sticks out because we remember completely the feeling of the leather on our feet and standing up and going, oh, my feet are warm. Oh, I can walk a little faster because I'm protected. So it was a huge thing. One pair of shoes. Not pretty shoes. One shoe was a little bigger than the other, but I felt immensely wealthy for the rest of that life because of those shoes.